Hey guys, welcome back to the Malabash Media Spotlight Show. Today, I'm really excited with the guest that we have. We have Kelly DeSara, and she is an actor and producer, director. I mean, she's done so many things. I'm just really excited to have her here, and she just got such a cool personality. So welcome, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so excited to do this show. Thanks for letting me be a part of what you're doing.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to kind of learn behind the scenes. It's always fun to learn from somebody who's been in it, especially from a woman's perspective too. I think it's just a completely different world, and just nice to have that for all the trailblazers. You're a trailblazer. For all those people out there that are looking at coming up and getting into the media world, it's always nice for them to be able to learn from somebody that, they can relate to really well. So I think that's just I'm thankful that you're here.
So much. Thank you so much. I feel really passionately about that. I think especially as women, we need to. Um, I read somewhere that there's 167 million of us. There's more women in this country than there are men. We are the majority, not the minority. And I I feel so passionately about supporting women. We're in this together. We're not competitors. We are teammates. And if I can help somebody who is a little younger avoid some of the mistakes that I've made, why wouldn't I want them to do that? I think it's really important, especially now with everything happening politically, that we rise up together.
I agree with that 100%. I think that's just something that, it's a new time to push the boundaries, of what we've been told we should be, whether it's been right or not, and kind of move forward in a positive direction, creating a better life for those that are behind us, and those that are coming up behind us and our kids and things. And so I really appreciate you saying that because, yeah, women actually are the majority of the world. Shocker. Yeah.
Shocker.
So yeah, it's always a good point to kind of bring that up. And it's like, why didn't we know this? And what are we doing to make that kind of a big thing? Is it really being taken care of as far as the women's? We've got some women's rights and stuff. I know this isn't going to be a political thing, but or do we really? Do we have it to the point where we really should? And I think that's something that we can really dive into super deep. And I think it's about time that more people stood up for that. And they stood up for the rights of women because we're not animals. I have a whole new experience with a senator this past week, and I'm not even going to go into it, but basically I felt like I stepped back into 1800s. So, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about you and your experience and what inspired you to get into the media world and get into acting. And it's not an easy world to get into, especially for a woman, and what inspired you to get into that area, like the field of media, creating films and being in them? What was your inspiration?
When I was growing up, we moved a lot when I was growing up. My dad was not in the military. It's always the first question. But we did move a lot for his job. And I found myself always making new friends and, experiencing new communities and having to figure out how to fit in. And I was a bit on the introverted side, so that was challenging for me. And in moments where I was feeling lonely and lost and whatever, film and television were the balm, the salve. It was the place I could go to escape whatever fear I had. And often whatever I was watching on television on my favorite show or in the movies, it maybe wasn't a direct thing about what was happening in my life, but there was some takeaway from that where I could feel like I was part of a larger community. And so it was always a field that I just absolutely passionately loved, but I was very shy. I'm not from a family of theater people, let alone film people. So it's kind of like a secret that I kind of kept to myself. I'm from a family of musicians. My parents are both, they both chose to do something else with their careers, but they're both very talented musicians. And it was a big part of my childhood. And so my first career was actually as a classical musician. That's what I went to college for. I got a bachelor's and a master's. And I was living in Europe. I doing some postgraduate work. I was doing some research that my intention was to take this research. I was living in the Czech Republic, which back when I was in college had recently left the USSR. And there was a lot of culture, especially from, from the 20th century, that we weren't completely privy to because of the US Russia, conflict. So my plan was to go over there and to learn some new flute music, and I would research on it and then come back to the States and finish my doctorate and teach at a university. Well, living overseas was an extraordinary experience, some of the best of my life. And I did get to use a lot of my moving around a lot skills to study these people. Oh my God, they're such a beautiful people. But I didn't speak the language. I couldn't even find, not only could I not find an English Czech language class, but I couldn't find a dictionary. So I went there completely, dumb to the language. And because they had only recently been out of the USSR restrictions, one of the things you could not do in the USSR was learn English. So their second language was German or Russian. So most people did not speak English to me. So I had to study their faces, study the cadence of their language, their body language.
Wow.
And when I was leaving there, I taught English to foreigners to pay for my flute education. And when I was leaving, my students in their teacher reviews, a lot of them said, Kelly will be a famous actress one day. And it had always been my dream to be an actress. So when I left there, I realized I'm taking such a big risk making my career classical music when it's not the thing I love. What am I doing? I need to take that. If I'm going to take the risk, I need to take it doing the thing I'm passionate about, which is telling other people's stories and talking about our shared humanity. And I can do that in this field. So that's how I got it. I got into it late. I was already in my late 20s when I started my first class. My first opportunity came really swift and fast, and I was not prepared for it. I missed it even. One of my friends here, I moved to LA. My parents had relocated here when I was finishing school overseas. So I moved out here. And one of my friends I met was the wife of a cinematographer who was doing J.J. Abrams' first show. And my friend was a model in Europe and from the Czech Republic, actually. And she said, Kelly, you're going to need headshots. I was just taking my first class. I didn't even think I could have an acting career at this late age. In classical music, if you're past 22 and you're not in a symphony, you've sort of aged out of performance. You're probably going to be a teacher. So I was 27 when I moved out here. So I wasn't thinking I could do this for a living. I was just thinking maybe I would do it for myself as like a hobby. And my friend took some photos of me, and she had the negatives out on the counter, and her cinematographer husband saw them and said, oh my God, I need to get her on the show. And she shared this with me, and I didn't take it seriously. No one had ever helped me before. I thought that's a sweet thing to say. He's being supportive, but it's not going to actually happen. And sure enough, I get a call with my call time for, oh God, what was that very first show he did? Oh, I'm blanking on that. It doesn't matter. But I had just started a new job, and I needed to give them 3 days notice. I didn't even know what a call time was. I wasn't even catching that I had booked a gig.
Right.
I was like 4 weeks into my first acting class.
Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't even, none of this registered until like 10 years later. I'm sitting in a J.J. Abrams movie, and I'm flashing back to the conversation going, oh my God, what did I do? I told them I couldn't go because I had a job. So yeah, that's how acting came to me. It was an accident. It was like stumbling into it late, and yeah.
That's amazing. And you know what? If you don't know the terminology, you don't know what a call time is, you don't know, it's a whole new world. It's learning a language that's different. Like you said, like when you were overseas and you were picking up on body language and stuff, like because you didn't, there wasn't a way to necessarily learn that language in, at that time. It's kind of the same with acting, and it's just like it's a whole new world to learn that, and so it's really interesting, and it's kind of, that's I love how you said that because I guarantee you there's more than one person that has experienced that. You don't know necessarily the magnitude of what you're being asked to do, and I was offered to be a background, like an extra on the L Word, right? And I was gonna do it, and I actually had somebody who was there was a situation with that, but anyways, told me not to do it, and instead of standing up for myself and being like, I'm gonna do this, I didn't do it, and now I just kick myself. I'm just like, oh my gosh, it would have been so like great to actually have just been a background person. You never know who you're gonna meet, and that is a big TV show now. It's like, oh my gosh, So yeah, I totally
Yeah, we all
understand
have
that.
those moments that we miss on our
Yeah,
journey to discovery. But yeah, for sure. Oh,
yeah.
we're getting some Maccabee Griffin. How supportive. Thank you for bringing that up. Mae West was
Yes.
one when
Thank
she
you,
was
Mac.
discovered. Um, yeah,
Um,
stories are really what inspire me. I love. I read this amazing quote uh, years ago, and I swear to God it was a Wayne Dyer quote. But for the life of me, I cannot find the book I read it in. I can't find. I've even Googled the quote and can't find it. But this was life changing for me. The quote was, when we realize that our story is everyone else's story and everyone else's story is our story, that is love. And that's a big reason why I do what I do. It's my way to connect with people. And I feel it's so powerful. I think one of our shared wounds as like a human body is that we're disconnected from each other. We're lonely. You can be married and be lonely. You don't feel seen. You're going through something that makes you ashamed, and you think you're the only one who has that particular story. And so you do things to disconnect from the shame. You drink too much, or you isolate, and I find that for myself, if used correctly, that film and television can be a tool for healing. And that's one of my mission statements. That's why I do this. Um, it's happened to me. I've had trauma in my past, and I remember watching um, a film. It had Denzel Washington in it, and the male lead was he was sharing a a traumatic event from his childhood. It was my traumatic event, but I was watching it spoken by a male who was so strong and um, alpha, and something about that, some switch went on in me, and I was able to find some strength. Like, it took a lot of the weight of the shame away. Someone else had my experience, and it wasn't a weak person who shared my experience. It was this person who's so strong. I just think that we can realize that we're in this together. That thing that you might be struggling with that feels like it's only you. I promise you, there are so many people going through the same thing, and we can come together in a healthy way through art. And that's why I love this field. This field has a lot of problems too, but in its idealistic state, this is what it can do, I think.
exactly. I love that, Kelly. I appreciate you sharing that for sure.
Yeah.
And I feel like that goes into tie into like the mission behind, what you like to share in your acting, and you've been a director as well. And, what is tell us a little bit more about, go into this a little bit more about your mission and your passion behind it. I know you're touching on it a little bit, but continue to share with us about that.
People are fascinating. I think that, we see on the big screen these beautiful people, and they're sharing these stories that are larger than life. And, you're sitting somewhere in your house with your kids in the middle of the country. And I think that what we don't realize is that we're all the same. And your story, the person who hasn't left their hometown, you have stories to tell me that I would just love to hear from you. Your life is a fascinating mosaic of stories that matter. And I think that's part of why we're so disconnected and disjointed right now as a population. We're buying into this idea that there are them and there are us. And we're not realizing that, no, we are us. We are us. We are so similar. I might not have had your exact experiences, but I've had experiences that have made me feel this exact way. And, one of my dearest friends and mentors, she's no longer with us, unfortunately, but she was a great comedian and a really brilliant teacher. Her name was Suzanne Wong. And she had this phrase she would say that is another one of my mission statements. I'm gonna totally butcher this phrase. I hope I get it. I hope I can pass it on to everybody so that you guys all understand what I'm trying to say. But she said once in class that she had this realization that the opposite of war is not peace. If war is destruction, then the opposite of war is creation. Therefore, the opposite of war is art.
That's amazing.
That's amazing, isn't it? Let it land. It means that could we fix some of these things simply through understanding? We all have a point of view. Everybody's point of view matters. If we take a moment to just connect to each other, listen, have that intimate moment, realize that you're not my enemy. There is a point of misunderstanding between us. Can't we bridge that through what we share? And I feel like that's what art does. Art tells our stories, humanity's stories. We do it in a fantastical way. We do it in a larger than life way sometimes, or a comedic way, or a farcical way. But at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. We're sharing our stories. And, since the beginning of civilization, that's how we've learned as a population and grown and evolved. And it's a difficult life. I think if you decide to go into acting for the fame, there's a big chance that you're going to be disappointed. That's like 1% of the people doing this.
Yes,
Right.
very true.
But there's everybody. I don't know. My sister is a doctor, and she heals. That's her work, and I'm so proud of her and what she's accomplished and what she does. But I think we all have those elements in our life where we are the healer. If you're a mother, you're a healer to your children. If you're a teacher, you're a healer to your students. As an actor, I can be a healer emotionally through my art for the audience. I can give you a safe place to land for an hour and a half when you're having a rough day. You can go into that darkened room, eat your raisin nuts and your Diet Coke, have a moment to pause, connect to people that are, whose stories are reflecting your life or whose stories are letting you escape from your life. Have a moment to recharge and then get back to your day. And that's the part of this that I love. I actually love, this was the difference for me between classical music and theater, and why I went into theater. For classical music, I loved performing it. I loved the sitting in the orchestra surrounded by, is it 88 other people? And our collective sound, and making these dynamics together, and you become like this one voice from these many instruments. And I loved that experience performing it. With acting, I actually love the process of it. Even when I'm not performing, if I'm in a classroom and I'm studying with a teacher, and I'm working on a role I haven't worked on before, and I don't understand this role and it's frustrating me, that means often, for my process anyway, that there is some part of my own personality, my own humanity, that I don't want to deal with, that I don't want to acknowledge is there, that I'm conflicted with in some way. And that means I have to dive into me to find out, why do I have the judgment about this part of myself who's egotistical, or this part of myself that's a victim, or this part of myself that is a mother, or whatever is that thing. I've got to face it and deal with it in order to tell this other person's story. And that's how acting can be a tool for healing. I actually feel like wherever you are in the world, whatever your actual job is, or your life is, or whatever you're doing, take 6 months and join an acting class. It's like exercising. I think it's so healing. Even if you don't think like you have any talent, it is a coming together of people. It is so much fun. And it's a real opportunity to get to know yourself better. And as you're getting to know yourself better, you become way more compassionate to other people. You might not always understand other people, but I think you start, it works that muscle, the empathy muscle. You just start pausing a little bit so you can hear what the other person is having to say, to try to understand it instead of just attack it. Anyway, I am on my soapbox. I'm hopping off now. I'm sorry about that.
No, Kelly, I love it. It just, and your voice is it's so peaceful. I think there's, there's different vibrations in people's voices, right? And how some voices just have this, like, they hit that decibel where it's very zenny, and it connects in the person's mind, where it just creates this form of peace. And it's very much, I feel like that you have very close to that, if not, that exact same voice. I know there's only a few people in the world that have that range, but it's really great getting to listen to you, because it's very peaceful. I love it.
Thank you for that. I think we all think our own voice sounds terrible. I always shocked when I actually hear my voice back. Whoa, what is that?
Yeah, I listened to myself a couple times, and it was funny. I was in a choir one time, and now I don't know what happened in between, but people are like, "You sing so good now." Back in the day, I guess I didn't, whatever. But the choir director, he's like, he stops everybody. He's like, "I hear this very childish voice right here," and he points almost exactly at me. I'm just like, "Do you want me to just get out? Like, if you really do, just tell me." It's like,
Oh my
thanks for being
gosh.
subtle, whatever.
I hope that was, maybe he meant childlike, maybe he meant innocent. I'm sure he meant a compliment in there, and his use of the English language was just not spot on.
You know what? I like to think that, for sure.
That's what I think. Pure was the word he was looking for. Pure voice.
Yes, exactly. I think that's, yeah. You know what, Kelly? I'm going to take that. I'm going to take it. Now, you've gotten you have a recent role that you've gotten in Disappearance of Deliverance, written by Michael Marks and directed by Stacey Alfonso. And you guys are in the process of creating the film, which will show a little bit about how you guys can get involved for those who are watching and everything. And thank you, Mac, for your encouraging comments. I know they're not all showing up here on the screen, but he's been encouraging us along. So thank you, Mac, for that. And let's talk a little bit about your role in this, because I'm really excited about this. When I first saw your audition for this, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And I have it. I don't know if you want me to show it right now or not. It's totally up to you. But I can pop it up here on the screen, or you guys can find it online, Disappearance of Deliverance. But it's absolutely stunning. She is the villain in this series, which is so different. And I'm so here for it. I'm like, yes, I'm here for this. So tell us about this, Kelly. Like, this is a really cool role for you.
I'm really excited about this project, and Michael has been spearheading this for a few years now, and I'm so also inspired by his passion and commitment. You know, indie film is made by a lot of very passionate people who create these projects over years and years because they don't have the studio funding. So Michael wrote a script, and one of the things that I was really inspired by with this script is that everybody's part in this script is non-traditional casting. So our, you know, our victims in this script are, first of all, our lead hero is an African American male, and he's the victim in the story. Your villain is the white woman, and I, as a one of the things about Hollywood that is less idealistic and more frustrating is, you know, besides the obvious political stuff we won't talk about, but there, you know, you get stereotyped. And so as a middle-aged white woman with freckles, the roles I get offered are never the villain role. I'm the I'm the best friend. I'm the nurse. I'm the teacher. I'm the mom. I'm, you know, it's all these very vanilla kind of these little supporting parts to get us through the, you know, story. And when I got called in to read the part of a villain, I just was, even just the audition was a thrill. And I feel on a much larger level. So I'm very passionate about women's rights. And I obviously I would be, I am a female. As women, if we are going to want to be fully seen as equals in this country, hopefully we'll get that Equal Rights Amendment passed. We'll talk about that a little later. I think it's also important to us to break the stereotypes. We're not always the good person in the story. I think part of stereotyping women and part of our like equality journey, feminist journey, if you will, is acknowledging that women can be real jerks. Women are the villains in life just as often as the men are. You know, if we want to talk about child abuse, for example, there are just as many children out there that are beaten by their mothers as they are beaten by their fathers, or violated by their mothers as violated by their fathers. And I think we don't acknowledge this as a society. You know, I'm very aware of some of the things that hold me back as a female in this world are also some of my superpowers. For example, if I walk into a convenience store and I want to steal a pack of gum, and I pocket that pack of gum, and the store clerk doesn't see the pack of gum go missing, but realizes someone has stolen a pack of gum, I can just walk out the front door because I'm good. I'm a female. I don't do anything violent or bad. That's what men do. And I think changing that narrative is also very important. I mean, women are human. I'm not saying women are bad. Women are usually good, just like people are usually good. But we are having a human experience, not a Madonna experience. And I can't live up to that standard. I can only live up to the human standard. So telling stories like this, where we actually get to see a woman villain, I think it's important. Also, I think it's important. There people out there that have been abused by a female, and they don't have their story shown, so they can't have that experience of feeling like there are other people in their same situation. Are they alone with that trauma somewhere? Um, not talking about it, not sharing it. They need to see it. So uh, for myself, it's exciting because those roles are just more fun to play. They're just more fun. So I'm really excited about that. I play the role of Samantha. Samantha is a kidnapper. She's unable to have children, and she is in midlife, and the chance of that is starting to wane. And she decides to take matters into her own hands and get her some kids. And there's a lady at work that she doesn't respect too much, she feels like she's not appreciating the life she has anyway. So she's going to just take those kids and live happily ever after. And then, chaos ensues. But yeah, that's the role I play. And it's going to be a really fun movie. And like I said, that it's really interesting casting. Everybody in the cast is playing a part that they stereotypically wouldn't necessarily get to play in traditional Hollywood. So I think that's also really important to support films like that, that represent more of a diverse populace. And yeah.
I definitely agree with that, and I appreciate you kind of bringing all that into play, because there's so many stereotypes out there, and I love how this film kind of cuts that. It cuts a lot of the stereotypes and creates a little bit more cohesion, because you're gonna have stereotypes because you continually perpetuate stereotypes. You don't get rid of them by not, like, you don't get rid of something by continuously bringing it up and always making it a big deal and not actually doing something about it. So I actually going to go ahead and play a little bit of your audition reel for it, which is going to be exciting. And I absolutely love this, because this is just, you're such a powerful actress. I absolutely am like, I just love this to death. So we'll play a little piece of this, and then you can talk a little bit more about your kind of excitement behind this. But I'm going to pop this up here.
I'll handle this bitch before I put a bullet between her eyes. I'm the goddamn charge nurse here today, and I am taking charge. I'll be kicking asses and taking names, and if anyone tries to cross me, they will feel my wrath. Thank you very much. Okay, miss,
You're such a powerful actor. I absolutely love that. When I saw that within his, his reel that he did to help raise funds for the film, I was just like, oh my gosh, I have to meet this person. Like, this person's amazing. You are just so talented, and I just love it. I mean, that's a whole new level of acting, and you're there, you're in it, like you could feel it, and it just, I was blown away. I was just so excited about it. So yeah, wanted to share that.
Max said something that I think is so true. Villains are the best to play. It's called free therapy. Now that I'm like seeing the audition again, I remember when I was prepping for it. Sometimes I think as people, we don't get to express our anger. Like, somebody cuts you off in traffic, and maybe if you're alone in the car, you get to, have your hissy fit. But in life, we have to always be very civilized and polite. And I think it's very therapeutic to be able to play, somebody who isn't confined to the boundaries that the rest of us are. I get to like vent my pent up rage. Very fun. Oh, thank you so much, Mac. That's so sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a whole new level of acting and everything. I love it. You bring a really amazing point to it. And I think one thing that my sister and I, well, actually a bunch of us had noticed, we had been doing some research, and a lot of amazing actresses, especially ones that can sing, had multiple screen credits and stuff, but didn't get credit for everything that they did. And a lot of people don't. But they didn't get credit for like really big films that they were major parts in. And they didn't get awards and things like that. And then I was doing some research and saw like somebody that did more risque films, and a girl, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you could see like all of the awards that this person got and all this, and you just like, what the audience was. And it's just like, that's kind of sad, like these so many talented, amazing actors, you're one of them. And are you guys getting recognized for, just because you're women too, are you getting recognized for, and this can go for all minorities, majorities as well, are you guys getting recognized for what you're doing, or is it just, the typical stereotype? So I really appreciate the fact that this film breaks a lot of those stereotypes. So if you guys want to get involved in the disappearance of Deliverance, you can go to the GoFundMe page. Michael Marks is, yes, we want to get this film produced.
Yeah.
Michael Marks is the writer behind it, and he's just an adorable human being. And Stacy's absolutely amazing. She's quite the director. So definitely, guys, see what you can do to help get this off the ground. And Samantha, not your counterpart, but you have a crime helper, and his name is Glenn. Glenn Radcliffe is your
Yeah, he plays Cole, my
yes.
hubby, my partner in crime.
Partner in crime. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word at the time.
Yeah.
Your partner in crime is Glenn, and I'm such a power duo there. So that's really awesome, guys. Definitely check out and see if we can get that supported and growing to a film. And then let's continue to go into a little bit more about you, Kelly, and some of your career things, and what are some things that you have found that you didn't expect in acting or in the media world?
It's interesting. When I was getting started in the early 2000s, Hollywood was still very much a pre-Me Too Hollywood. So, very early on, I had some offers. If I would do this for him, he would help start my career. And that part of Hollywood, I was already familiar with existing. I was old enough, because I wasn't 18 when I came out here. I was in my late 20s. I was expecting that. I think what I was not expecting, and I don't know, in fairness, I've only been in this field. I've only been in the arts. So maybe this is true for, I will absolutely let you know, Mac, if we can do some voiceover work, and if I can help you out, absolutely. I have a bunch of other projects I'm working on too. So be sure to, I'll get your information from Ash. I wasn't prepared for, I don't know how to say this delicately. There are narcissists in this field. And I think this is where I've had my pitfalls. Because a narcissist, especially if you're eager and you have like a pure idealistic bent to you, the narcissist will come in at you, and the narcissist could be the film director, could be a fellow actor, could be a casting person, could be a teacher. They're sprinkled out throughout Hollywood. And my warning to those coming up, in addition to, if somebody's telling you sleep with them for a part, you don't need to do that. Let's just say from now on, we're not doing that in Hollywood. You can find another way. There are people out here who will support you and help you out without you having to do anything to compromise your integrity. And while that might not be 100% true, we might still be transitioning into an industry that's more fair. I'm just putting it out there that it is more fair. And yeah. And I understand, Ashley, you've got a great organization that can help those people out. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit on the show too. Anyway, I've totally lost my train of thought. What were we talking about? Oh, in Hollywood, Narcissists. Okay. So here's the deal. You're going to meet somebody and they're going to be like super into you. They'll make you feel so seen. They'll be so charming and so complimentary of all of the things that you've accomplished, even if minor little things. They're going to make you feel like they were major and, oh my God, I wish I could be just like you. And I find that these people are kind of sussing out what they can get from you. And this charm grooming period can last a while. It can last months. But at some point, they're going to start manipulating and maneuvering all of your bright light and your talents and harvesting them for themselves. So I don't, like I said, maybe this amount of narcissists that I've encountered in my life is true for all industries. I've never worked in another industry. I don't know. But I can tell you that in this business, there are a lot of them. Not everybody goes into this field because they love the art form. A lot of people go into this field because they want to be famous. They want to be seen. They're desperate to be seen. They're desperate to be famous. And they can really not just waste your time, but it can be an emotionally traumatizing experience. So that has been the unexpected pitfall in this business for me, something that was not on my radar. And for the younger folks just starting out or thinking about going into this field, I think the more you can feel confident in your own, I think what made me more susceptible to those people was that I felt the need, I felt like I wasn't good enough yet, but if I worked hard enough and put in my dues, I would eventually be good enough. That idea that I'm not good enough is the thing that hooks in the narcissist to you. So if the more you can just, we're all at our various phases of development in our art, but you are always enough. There is never anyone that has the magic bullet or the secret ingredient that's going to help you figure it out to land your dreams. This field is a journey. It's a long journey. It takes years and years and years, and you have to be in it for it. I'm not saying it has to. There are people that get discovered overnight, and their career starts instantly. I'm just saying to have confidence in yourself and be aware of the narcissist, because they can get in your way. They're not going to help you. They're just going to get in your way, and you need to just lovingly not accept that gift.
I really appreciate you saying that, Kelly, because it's so true. I mean, narcissists is a really good way to put it. And I think this field attracts so many, and I think we get into it and we don't necessarily realize how bad it is. Because when you go to a typical job, you have your resume, you have your credentials, and that should either be the deciding factor, right?
Yeah.
And in this job, it's so wishy-washy, black and white. Like, it's not black and white, it's all gray. And you have a whole bunch of demand a whole bunch of supply and such little demand. I don't know what's wrong with me today. And you have those gatekeepers, and they know that if you're not willing to do it, the next person that will be willing to do it will come along, and they can just get whatever. And the whole couch favor thing and everything is just such a huge, it's so immature, it's so crap, and it's really sad of how it's out there, and how I really appreciate you saying that you don't need to do anything like that to actually get seen and heard. And a lot of times, even if you do that, you're putting yourself sometimes into an even more dangerous place, because a lot of times those people may be connected, but that's a really dangerous spot to be in too, because if you don't do, you're their puppet at that point. If you don't do anything that they want after that, they can pretty much destroy you.
Or they just manipulate you. I've had friends who have made that decision, and and it doesn't always work out. You know, the person giving you that quid pro quo, would that be considered a quid pro quo? You sleep with me and I give you a career boon. I'm not sure I used that term correctly, but okay, I'm throwing it out there. The person who's the other side of that deal can renege. They can also only give you the shot that's small enough to keep you in their control. There are strings attached, and I just feel like most of the time those strings are too heavy a weight for most people to bear long term. And so it might be a quick fix in the moment, but it's not.
No, you're so right. And that's one of the reasons why we created, Malabash, was because we wanted to create a safe place for media professionals to get in a safe way. It's kind of like, you get that even going to school. A lot of college students, they get out and just like, okay, they're fresh, they're ready to go. And that's, probably one of the most dangerous parts, because now they don't know where to go. And then everybody's like, ooh, fresh meat. You're not out here in Hollywood? Okay, so you don't know all the dangers. All right, this is great. I actually knew a producer who would hire specifically outside of Hollywood and whatever, because he could pull things through on people and they wouldn't know, because they weren't in it. And to get, like they weren't there in Hollywood to see that was a common thing that people would try to do. And, most of us like take it at heart, at, face value. Right. And so we're going to be like, oh, yeah, this person's offering this. It seems fine. They look legit on paper. And it's a little bit dangerous. So that's why we created this, to have some connections that people could trust, and, some mentorship and ways to help get into the next level. And I know that you're working right now on a really cool project, equalmeansequal.org. And I'm going to pop that back up here. Tell us a little bit about that, Kelly, before we end for the day.
So this is not a project I've worked on. These the two people that started this this movement started as a documentary. Kamala Lopez Dawson and her husband Joel Marshall. She might be Kamala Marshall now. I'm not sure. When I met her, they hadn't gotten married yet. They made this documentary, and they're both actors and brilliantly talented. And Kamala, I can't remember. She shared the story of how it, and I don't want to speak for her, but she ended up learning that women do not have equal rights under the U.S. Constitution, and she didn't think that could be possible. So she started a documentary, and their interviews with judges, female judges, attorneys. She goes into great detail about the status of women's freedom in the United States right now. There was this really stunning slide in the documentary where she shows from little bodies, like one body represents 1,000 people, one of those things. The amount of women that die every year at the hands of their domestic partner, their husband or their partner, domestic violence, versus the number of people that have died in the Iraq War from 2000 to 2015, and more women die every year than the amount of soldiers that died in that war for the entirety of the war. So they go into details about how much a woman makes per dollar versus a man, and then that's broken down racially as well. It's a really informative film. I did not know that I was not represented under the Constitution. So there was this, there was this case where a woman had sued a large department store that she worked for 25 years because they were only promoting men. They were not promoting women. And what she was making after 25 years in was significantly less. She sued them and won. they appealed. It went to the next course. She sued them and won. She sued them and won. She sued them and won. When it got to the Supreme Court, they overturned it and ruled in favor of the department store. Why? Because women are not guaranteed equal rights under the US Constitution. All men are created equal. Now, I learned in elementary school that men meant men and women. It was the way in English grammar, when you have a mixed group of people, that you talk about both groups, man as in mankind. And in the 18th century, that is what that term meant. But our Supreme Court has decided that is not what it means. That's not what the founders intended. So I grew up when they were trying to pass the ERA. I was a small child. I didn't understand it. The point is it never passed, but only we're like one state shy of it passing. And there's no, Kamala uncovered, I'm butchering this now, but she uncovered that it's not too late, that there was no expiration date, or there was some sort of loophole. So that's become her mission, is to get the ERA passed from the original, appeal in the 80s. And she's made a brilliant documentary. If you are at all interested in, if you're a female and want to educate yourself on what's going on with other women who are less supported and protected than you are, or just for yourself. That's the thing. We all think we're privileged because we're college educated and whatever. This documentary is just horrifying when you realize what you haven't realized about yourself. But also, if you're a man and you have women in your life that are important to you, you have female children, you have your partner that you love, you have sisters. Boy, we need you right now, guys. It's an important documentary, and so the website will link you to ways you can watch the documentary. Kamala's also started a movement, Equal Means Equal, and she does a lot of good works around that. And oh my God, hold on, what? On July 20th, what? Oh, let's read that. The 38th state ratified the Equal Rights Amendment. Okay, I think they need, oh, that's amazing. I think they need 39. Anyway, check out the website, educate yourself on the movement. I think it's important right now with everything that's happening with recent Supreme Court rulings. Ladies, we need to know. There's no excuse. You can't not know the truth about your own status in this country. We don't have that luxury anymore, in my opinion. And there are women that need you.
No, that's so true. Yeah, we need help with that. It's very important, and it's becoming more of a pandemic than coronavirus is. I hate to relate that because it's such a trigger for so many people, but the pandemic in its 2.5 years has killed 1 point so many million people in the U.S. alone, but 10 million people die a year from domestic violence, and so it will eventually affect pretty much everybody if we don't do something about it. And so yes, stand up for women's rights and to be able to pass these laws. There's trailblazers out there that are willing to put in the time and the effort and the constant battling to do this. And so if you guys can help support them, that's absolutely amazing. So definitely go to the website here. And Kelly, thank you so much for bringing this up. It's something that's really near and dear to my heart, and I just I definitely really appreciate that. So thank you so much. And are there any last words that you have before we end for today?
The only thing I'd leave, just in case that there's some person out there who's always dreamed of making a break from your life and doing something ridiculous like going into the arts, give yourself the gift. You're worth it. Do what you love, and the right opportunities will fall your way, and your life will be exactly what it's supposed to be. Trust that thing, that flame that's sparking in you, is given to you by whoever you believe is your higher power. It's a calling and a gift. And best of luck. And if there's, my website's kellydesarla.com. You can reach me if there's ever a way that I can, support anyone who's new to the business. I'll give you any advice that I have to offer for whatever it's worth.
Yeah, guys, definitely go check out Kelly's website. It is a really, inspiring, and she's a fantastic human being, just so sweet, and is, there to be in your corner too. So definitely go check out everything there. Support Disappearance of Deliverance, guys. We really would like to get this film created, and Kelly is a major part in this film, so help support Kelly through this as well. So I just really appreciate, Kelly. Thank you so much for being here, taking the time. I know we went way over today, but it was definitely such a blessing. So I just really appreciate it a lot.
Thank you for that. Sorry that I'm so talky. Love all of you. Thank you again, Ash. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And don't be sorry at all. It was so much fun. I love it. And like I said, I love listening to your voice. You should just start a podcast so we can listen to your voice. All right, everybody. Well, take care, and we'll see you back here next time on the Malabash Media Show. Bye, guys. Happy 4th.
Happy 4th.